Back-to-back warnings: US, UK flag Nigeria's insecurity and religious tension. Two major Western powers, the United Kingdom and the United States, have voiced deep concern over Nigeria's worsening security situation. Within just a few days, both governments released strong statements highlighting growing fears over escalating violence, terrorism, and the persecution of Christians in Nigeria. In a stark advisory issued on gov.uk, the UK's Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office (FCDO) urged British nationals to avoid travel to several parts of Nigeria, describing a nationwide surge in violent crime, insurgent attacks, and intercommunal clashes. The FCDO listed Borno, Yobe, Adamawa, Gombe, Katsina, and Zamfara states as no-go zones due to persistent threats from Boko Haram and the Islamic States West Africa. Humanitarian workers and aid convoys were also identified as potential targets. The advisory further discouraged all but essential travel to Bauchi, Kaduna, Kano, Kebbi, Jigawa, Sokoto, Niger, Kogi, Plateau, and Taraba states, as well as the other suburbs of Abuja. The UK government warned that violent crimes, including armed robbery and kidnapping, has spread from Abuja outskirts into more central affluent areas. British government staff in Nigeria have been ordered to restrict movement to the Abuja metropolitan area. In the south and southeast, the FCDO highlighted growing instability driven by militancy and separatist activity. Riverine areas of Delta, Bayelsa, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, and Cross River states were deemed unsafe due to attacks on oil infrastructure. Even Lagos, Nigeria's commercial hub, was flagged for urban crimes such as carjacking and armed robbery. While the UK's warning underscores the global concern about Nigeria's worsening insecurity, the United States has taken a strong political stance on religious persecution in the country. On November 7, 2025, Congressman Riley Moore introduced a resolution in the U.S. House of Representatives condemning what he described as the systematic persecution of Christians in Nigeria. The resolution supports U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to redesignate Nigeria as a country of particular concern for religious freedom violations. Citing data from Open Door and other human rights groups, Moore said between 50,000 and 100,000 Christians have been killed between 2009, with at least 7,000 deaths recorded this year alone, an average of 35 every day. Nearly 19,000 churches have reportedly been destroyed across the country. The resolution urges the U.S. government to use every available diplomatic, economic, and security tool to defend persecuted Christians and ensure freedom of worship in Nigeria. Moore described the move as a clear message that the U.S. will not ignore the plight of believers facing violence and displacement. Together, the UK Travel Alert and the U.S. Congressional Resolution highlights mounting international concern over Nigeria's spiraling insecurity and religious tension, a dual crisis that threatens not only the country's stability but also its relations with key Western partners. While the UK frames its concern around general insecurity, terrorism, and violent crime, the U.S. focuses on alleged religious persecution, particularly against Christians. The FCDO's latest advisory designates several northern Nigerian states as no-go zones and discourages non-essential travel to others, citing terrorism, kidnapping, and intercommunal violence. It also highlights urban crime in Lagos and Abuja, an indication that insecurity has spread far beyond rural and conflict-affected regions. The UK advisory shows that insecurity in Nigeria is widespread and multi-dimensional, ranging from terrorism in the northeast to separatist violence in the southeast and urban crime in the southwest. This development highlights systematic governance and law enforcement challenges. Congressman Riley Moore's resolution, backed by President Donald Trump's push to designate Nigeria as a country of particular concern, brings renewed attention to religiously motivated violence. The U.S. resolution zeroes in on the plight of Christians, portraying Nigeria as one of the world's most dangerous countries for believers. The U.S. resolution frames the country's crisis through a religious persecution lens, citing staggering death tolls and destruction of churches. While these figures are contested, they highlight growing concern about Nigeria's failure to protect vulnerable groups, especially minorities and faith communities. Both actions by the UK and the US represent mounting diplomatic pressures on the Nigerian government and tackle its security challenges and address ongoing alleged human rights abuses. The coordinated timing amplifies Nigeria's visibility on global watch lists and could influence aid, investment, and bilateral relations. For Nigeria, these advisories cast Nigeria as unsafe for both citizens and foreigners, undermining its image and attractiveness to investors and tourists. The international spotlight could push Nigerian authorities to intensify counter-terrorism operations and security reforms. In all, Nigeria's insecurity is not new, but its persistence and expansion are alarming. The Northeast remains under threat from Boko Haram and ISWAP. Banditry and kidnapping plague the Northwest and North Central regions. The Southeast faces violence that has been allegedly tied to the indigenous people of Biafra. The Nigerian government, which often insists that the situation is under control, could find it difficult to counter these narratives without tangible improvements in security and human rights enforcement.